Hello, this is Jay Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast. So let's get right into it. First, we have Ron DeSantis exit race endorses Trump from Axios, and I posted that, and I said, I despise Trump, but of the two options left for the GOP, he's probably the better one, in my opinion. I think Trump's a neocon just like Haley is, but at least he's secret about it. He's not an open neocon. I don't like how Haley, she wants to get rid of online anonymity, raise the retirement age, and openly warmongers. At least Trump is a secret neocon compared to Haley's open one. I personally would take Biden over Trump and Haley, but with that being said, it ignores the Democrats challenging Biden for the nomination like Marianne Williamson, Dean Phillips, and all the third-party candidates as well. So hopefully we'll see what happens in New Hampshire today, and we can hopefully those results will go well. Then we have Let's Talk About China, the U.S., and the Red Sea from Anarcho Federation, and that's a YouTube video from Bo of the Fifth Column, and they said and they added U.S. tactics of force are a relic, American imperialism getting outdone by Chinese relations. And I would agree with that. The thing is that the U.S. thinks it's the world police, when increasingly the people of the U.S. don't want to be the world police, but the government still thinks is going to be the world police anyway. So that's my thoughts on that issue. Hopefully we can stop bombing all these countries soon, but I'm not going to be overly optimistic about it. Then we have Trump says Biden doesn't have to follow any laws from Mr. Beat on Twitter, and I posted that, and that was him sharing a true social post from Donald Trump, and Donald Trump proved a president of the United States must have full immunity, without which it would be impossible for him to properly function. Any mistake, even if well-intended, would be met with almost certain indictment by the opposing party at term end. Even events that cross the line must fall under total immunity, or it will be years of trauma trying to determine good from bad. There must be certainty. Example, you can't stop police from doing the job of strong and effective crime prevention because you want to guard against the occasional rogue cop or bad apple. Sometimes you just have to live with great but slightly imperfect. All presidents must have complete and total presidential immunity, or the authority and decisiveness of a president of the United States will be stripped and gone forever. Hopefully this will be an easy decision. God bless the Supreme Court. And I said, it feels like none of them do. None of the presidents have to follow any laws. Just look at Bill Clinton on Epstein Island, or Obama drone striking U.S. citizens without due process, or the entirety of the Iraq War. The list is pretty much endless, I would say. So, yeah, I guess I personally don't really care for Trump. I guess I definitely do see where he's coming from here. It looks like everyone has to follow any laws, so why should he? Then we have censoring by any other name from All About Trade-Offs, and that's a self-post from them, and they said, does anyone else find it curious that the mods here seem trigger-happy to quote-unquote lock posts? And I said, it's Reddit. It's to be expected, sadly. It's the same reason why they lock replies to them on any post or comment they remove using the mod team account. Uncensored only goes as far as they want it to. Then we have, given the post I've seen regarding the Gaza war, I thought this would be an interesting discussion starter from Paton13, and that's a cross post. No, it's not a cross post. It says, it's a comic, it's one guy says, leftists not voting for Biden and letting Trump win because of Palestinian genocide, and then a bunch of other guys come beat him up, and the label changes to what Trump's illustration will do to them. And it's two guys hiding behind him while people from other countries scared of alt-right rising for their due to Trump. And then the guy next to him is Palestinians after U.S. support to Israel increases Ukrainian U.S. minorities poorest disadvantaged people in the U.S. And I said I replied to where I don't know if I can find it. It's really down there, but let's see. Yeah, I replied to Grass States Badu said, Both Trump and Biden are shitty authoritarian imperialists. The main difference between is Biden pretends to care about human lives, whereas Trump doesn't even try to pretend to care about anything other than his own ego. And I said, I agree, they're much more alike than they are different, but sadly the subreddit is full of D and C shills who can't see that. Then we have r/Libertarian Uncensored discusses and grades the U.S. Vice President's number 13, William R. King, and I said, by the time he took office as VP in 1853, King, Franklin Pierce's VP, was ill of tuberculosis and seeking treatment in Cuba, where he became the first VP to take the office on foreign soil. As 2024 is the only VP reported to do so. Other than that, he died just over a month into office, having to swear his vice presidency outside of John Tyler and Andrew Johnson, so Pierce spent the rest of his term without as a VP. There wasn't a way to fill inter-term VP vacancies until the 25th Amendment was passed in 1967. Also, you can't mention King without bringing up that he might have been James Buchanan's gay lover. I guess only the two of them will ever know for sure. Final grade B+. False. And I said, King gets high marks for me as VP for the same reasons as William Mayor Harrison gets high marks as POTUS. He follows one of my cardinal rules of politics: don't overstay your welcome. Then we have Lenin, and that's from Jaded Jared. It's a quote from Lenin: "Comrades, the Kulak uprising in your 5 districts must be crushed without pity. You must make an example of these people. 1, hang publicly so these people see it. At least 100 kulaks, rich bastards, and known bloodsuckers. 2, publish their names. 3, seize all their grain. 4, single out the hostages per my instructions in yesterday's telegram. Do all this so that for miles around people see it all, understand it, tremble, and tell themselves that we are killing the bloodthirsty kulaks and that we will continue to do so. Find tougher people. Vladimir Lenin." And I said, it's crazy how much the modern left tends to idolize him. My academic advisor in college had a picture of him in their room. And also, yesterday was the 100th anniversary of him becoming a good communist. Funny thing I heard on the other subreddit yesterday, and that was him. Yesterday was the 100th anniversary of his death. The only good communist is a dead communist, they like to say. So that's a bit of edgy humor there for you. So that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have The Happy Patriot, The Unhappy Nationalist from TheAtlantic.com by Clorox. And yeah, I personally think, I think if you want to be a patriot or a nationalist, you should be able to do so. But if you want to, this article is about having pride in your country can lead to great well-being, but only if you can do it right. I think that's just subjective. I think if media kind of is against nationalism. They made it pretty openly. But I think if you want to be a nationalist, you should be able to be a nationalist. You don't think that's being bad like they think here. And I think you should be able to. They should be able to say that. So that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Kentucky GOP's new bill decriminalizes use of deadly force against the unhoused from Lexington. KY.News from Whittling Dan. And I said, I didn't comment on this one, but yeah, I definitely don't think we should be justifying the government shouldn't be justifying using deadly force, and that's an opinion that I've always had, because I don't think, we should be supporting stuff like capital punishment or any of that stuff. The government shouldn't have deadly force, because its monopoly on force is what makes it legitimate. I don't like that it has a monopoly on force. Then we have Supreme Court allows Border Patrol agents to remove razor wire installed by Texas at Mexico border from NBCNews.com. And that's from everyone from Whittling Dan. And I said, I'm not really into borders, but I think if Texas wants to nullify this decision, that they should be able to. I support open borders, but I also support the enforcement of property rights and nullifications. So that's my thoughts there. Then we were told in 2020 that burning down family businesses was fine because they had insurance. There is no way to share a country with people who believe that. From Michael Malice on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, agreed. Our value systems are so drastically different that the only way out is through national divorce, decentralization, and the abolishment of forced collectivism. That's my thoughts there. I just think, we're too different. Ultimately, I think we need to just let everyone be themselves. If people want to go and use force to get a family, to destroy family businesses, I think they should be able to. If they do, I wouldn't personally want to do it, but and if the family business want to use self-defense as a result, I think they should be able to as well. So ultimately, it comes down to who has the force to do what. That's why I think it's very important that, that's why the government thinks it's very important that it has a monopoly on the legal use of force, which I personally don't care for. I think everyone should be able to use force if they feel like it, and not just that of the state. Then we have fake Joe Biden robocall tells New Hampshire Democrats not to vote on Tuesday from NBCNews.com by Zachness. And I said, I hear most voters weren't convinced by it since Biden sounded coherent and wasn't mumbling. Sarcasm. And then I said, it's called a joke. People used to be able to joke about the president regardless of party, but sadly that's not the world we live in anymore. You're only allowed to make jokes about the president when he has the wrong letter next to the name apparently. You can't make jokes about Biden because he has the right letter next to his name. Then we have Javier Milei sucks it up to World Economic Forum elites from Breaking Points on YouTube, and that's another one from a narco federation. And they said Milei actually went up to the corporatocracy headquarters and sucked them off while claiming basically leftists and progressives are Nazis. After seeing the speech and speaking Spanish myself, I can tell you that those people telling you that he went there to tell them to speak to power at Davos is absolutely BS. He went there to tell them that they were the best thing in the world, and it shows, as I've seen many of the elites, they praise Milei as their guy. And, yeah, I personally think, I like Milei's rhetoric, but yeah, I definitely don't think, I guess you could argue either way. I personally think, he might be a plant to discredit libertarianism, but I guess I'm still giving him time to wait and see. I definitely did like his speech at Davos, and hopefully it's rhetoric that can continue to grow the libertarian movement. Then we have Oklahoma bill would ban sending sexy selfies unless you're married from Reason.com by LegioX. That's crosswords from the Oklahoma subreddit. And, yeah, I definitely don't think that's libertarian. I think you should be able to send whatever pictures you want, as long as, it's not, sexting children, I would say. Then we have Florida bill would funnel $5 million worth of public money to Trump to pay legal fees from rawstory.com by Clorox. And they added the fiscally responsible party of self-reliance. And, yeah, I definitely don't think that is very libertarian. I think people need to support themselves, and I don't think Trump should be getting free money from the government just because he's running for president. But that's my thoughts there. Then we have MAGA grifters cashed in selling fake cures to imaginary diseases from boingboing.net by Paton Fertan. And that's how they're apparently trying to sell cures to the disease X that WEF is marketing. But, yeah, I personally think, if you want to buy whatever you want, you should be able to do so. But just be aware, disease X isn't a thing yet, although they look like they might try and make it a thing because they need another pandemic so they can institute Agenda 2030, I would say. Then we have Utah bathroom ban goes to Senate for a final vote, could force general examinations if accused from AaronInTheMorning.com by Clorox. And I definitely would agree that's not libertarian. I think if people want to have their genitals examined, they should be able to, but I don't think it should be a requirement. Then we have r/Libertarian Center discusses and grades the U.S. Vice President's number 14, John C. Breckinridge. And I said, taking off at just the age of 36, the youngest VP reporter in U.S. history, Breckinridge, James Buchanan's VP, is an interesting figure to look at. His vice presidency was relatively interesting, but after it, he did manage to obtain the presidential nomination of the Southern Democrats for the 1860 POTUS election. Northern Democrats nominated Illinois State Senator Stephen A. Douglas. He ended up winning all the states that would go on to form the Confederacy, with the exceptions of Tennessee and Virginia, which went to third-party Constitutional Union candidate John Bell, a senator from Tennessee, in addition to Maryland and Delaware. After the election, famously won by Republican candidate Abraham Lincoln, he was appointed as a senator from Kentucky. This supports the 17th Amendment provide for direct election of senators, and served for less than a year before deciding to join the Confederate military. After the war, he fled to Cuba, then to Canada, and then went on a tour of Europe before returning to Canada. Afterwards, he returned home to Kentucky after President Andrew Johnson proclaimed amnesty for all former Confederate veterans on Christmas Day, 1868, when he spent the rest of his life outside politics. I guess he was too focused on his mustache by then, and he went on to die at the relatively young age of 54. Final grade D. And then, we have controversial ideas. Charles Murray challenges the mainstream narrative from John Stossel on YouTube, and I posted that. And I said, Challenging the mainstream narrative is something you increasingly aren't allowed to do anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if it was illegal in the US by the end of the century. Also, I love how the quote-unquote follow the science people are so upset when Murray does scientific studies and the findings come back in a way they don't like. So, yeah. That's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have DeSantis says marijuana legalization will be on Florida ballot following the court review on marijuanamoment.net by Dr. Who 07. And yeah, I think that's good. I think, we need to legalize not just marijuana, but all drugs. I personally don't think you should be doing drugs all day, but I think if you want to, I think the libertarian perspective, you should be able to as long as you're not hurting anyone else. So that's my thoughts on there. And I think we're going to wrap up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.